Shalom and good day. Coming back up here to give you part 6 of the mystery of Pentecost, known as YAHUAH, dealing with the numbers 49 and 50. The origins of YAHUAH, Pentecost, and Sukkot, known as the Feast of Tabernacles, and the significance of Sivan, the 15th day, and the daily sacrifice. So those who have watched up to part 5, y'all, I don't know about y'all, but this is some good bread we are eating on. The living word is showing us something great. The living word is showing how our Father thinks and his mindset, and why he command us to keep certain things. It was for us, Israelites and Gentiles, to remind us what is coming, so we will not be caught off guard. Okay? It is also to give us understanding of all the prophecies that are written in his divine books. Okay. So first, I want to give honors to our Father in heaven. He is the Most High. He is the God above all gods, and he is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I also like to give honors unto his son, Yahusha HaMashiach, for he is the second Adam. He is the Son of God, the Son of Yah. He is the door of the sheep. In the Hebrew tongue, the letter that represents door is the left. And he is the fountain of the living waters and the eye/light of the body, which is represented by Ayin. And last, we want to give our honors, our respects unto our mother for what's done in heaven and earth. Just like we have a father and mother in the earth, we have a father and a mother in heaven, and our mother is wisdom. For the Messiah says this about her, that wisdom shall be justified by her children, meaning that she's not made in vain. She shall bring forth, for she shall birth the children of the light. Mysteries that I speak unto you. So y'all, we got a lot to get started in. This is a how can I say this? Y'all, it's getting heavy. Not heavy as a burden, but in goodness. We are beginning to see some divine things, right? Okay. So in this video, I'll probably be sharing some copyright materials with you. All right. And if this is your first time seeing a video on the mystery of YAHUAH, I highly recommend that you watch the playlist first, because just as the Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, has a twofold feast in it, the same is with this video of the mystery. I first had to give you some historical dates to establish some things first, to show you the proof. And after that, we are now transitioning into the spiritual things, into the heavenly things. Again, to understand all these things, all these mysteries that I speak unto you, you must master your foundation. Torah, the gospel, which go into the prophets. The prophets are the extension of Torah, which is covenant, which is the living word. Okay, so make sure you check this playlist out. Okay, I highly recommend that you start from the beginning and then work yourself down. All right, now let us begin. So from part 5, I reveal unto you the ultimate mystery, so you can understand the direction where we are going. We had just talked about our forefathers, our ancestors, the ancient ones, such as Moshe and Noah. And we had to take a brief break when we got into Noah, because it shall lead us into our forefather Abraham. For Abraham and Sarah is the father and the mother of the faithful. Very important to know. Okay? They are the father and the mother of the faithful. If you understand what that means, Hmm. Then you understand where we're about to go next. Okay? All right. So we have 3 chapters to read that pertains to Abraham. Jubilees chapter 14, chapter 15, and chapter 16. So as you see, we don't have a lot of time. So I want to go ahead and get started. But before we start, I gave you the ultimate mystery. So I want you to meditate on that as you're watching this video. The Father is saying unto us, 7 days, which is a week, must pass first before judgment can come, before the eternity can come, before the newness of the heaven and earth can come. Okay? Proof of this, he gave us a divine example dealing with the days of Adam up to the days of Noah. The divine example he gave unto us is the flood that Josephus calls the deluge. Okay? And for those who are watching, who are record keepers of the calendar and the timeline, you will know this when he revealed it unto you, that 7 days passed, which was the week. This is creation. Okay? From the creation, within the creation, you have 6 days of the Father creating his creations, and on the 7th day he rests. So that week was completed. And when that week was completed, and we all know the history, what happened to our foreparents when they fell from the divine state, a great judgment would have to come. And the Father revealed why. Because he saw what was in man's heart. And that is the same with this generation. He's seeing what's in your heart. Remember, you have to understand Torah to understand what has taken place with you. So after this first week has passed, which we know is the week of what? Creation. Okay? I'm going to put it right here. Week 1, which is dealing with creation. Okay? Now that has passed. We are in week 2. Okay? This is dealing with the present now. Okay? So once this week is completed, and the prophet's going to back me up, I have proof and evidence and everything of what I'm saying. Okay? Once this week is completed, then our Father in heaven, judgment will come in the 3rd week. Enoch give the date, as well as Ezra's, the high priest Ezra's. They give the date. This is why the heathens have hidden so much information from us, so many dates, because they don't want you to know where you are at in time. Now I know some is going to go to this verse, but let me go ahead and clarify this. I'm not talking about the day when the Messiah come. I'm talking about the day of our Father's judgment. For even the Messiah said this, we would know the time as far as the season that we were in. We would have knowledge of these things. This is why he told us to what? Watch and pray. And even the Bible said that a fool will not observe time. But those who are the children of light, those who have wisdom walking with them, will observe time and will be a record keeper and will keep a record of the timeline from the time of creation to now. Why? Because we are to sound the alarm to Adam, which includes what? The Israelites and the Gentiles. We are to sound the alarm to warn you, to let you know where we are at in time so you won't be caught off guard. Because let me tell you something, Satan and those other principalities, misery love company. They know where they're going. They know where their eternity is, which is what? Sheol, hell. And as the living word said, that he did not make Sheol for us. He made it for them angels. But if you want to be wicked like them and transgress against him, then that's where you're going. Okay? So this is where we at. We in week 2. Week 2. So what 8, like I said again, represent what? The new beginning and judgment. So Father cleaned house. He cleaned the earth with water. That was his first judgment. So when he comes back again with the second judgment that shall bring forth what? His eternal kingdom, he's going to cleanse the earth with fire. Why do you think he has us to offer him burnt offerings? Why do you think that when you eat the residue or the product from the burnt offering cleanses your body? Y'all need to look up the benefits of charcoal. Like I said, he's always speaking unto us in volumes. Now let us go back so we can get into Abraham because we have a lot of reading material. Okay? So when we met in part 5, we stopped at verse 19 because we need to see how Abraham observed the eternal covenant. Okay? Because we learned that after Noah died, his sons stopped keeping it and they began to eat blood. So just for clarification, the Feast of Weeks pertains to the rainbow covenant, which is the eternal covenant that we see in verse 16. Remember that. The Feast of Weeks only pertains to, well, let me correct myself, in the beginning of the days of our forefathers. The Feast of Weeks pertains to the rainbow covenant, which is the eternal covenant. Okay? You're going to have to read Jubilees chapter 6 to understand what I'm saying. Okay? That's what the Feast of Weeks represent. Remember, it is the counting of weeks. So, for example, 7 days must pass. A week must pass, which is what? 7,000 years. Then judgment will come in the 8th day. This is why he had us to celebrate the Feast of Weeks to remind us what is coming. Okay? Now we're going to get into Abraham. We're going to get into learning the origins of tabernacles and also getting some more information that pertains to this second feast, which is the feast of the first fruits of the harvest, also known as the feast of the first fruits of the grain. Okay, now let us begin. We are going to Jubilees chapter 14. Make this follow so I can see my chapters. All right, Jubilees chapter 14. We're going to blow this up. All right, here we go. Verse 1. After these things, in the 4th year of this week, on the new moon of the 3rd month, the word of Yahuwah came to Abram. Now, y'all want to highlight this verse because it's giving you the date. It is telling us on the new moon of the 3rd month. Now, we know new moon represented the first day. And the 3rd month in the days of Abram, remember that is based on Adam's calendar. So the 3rd month is Caslu. Caslu's the first day. And it's kind of interesting that we see the number 4 too, because it said in the 4th year of the week. The 4th year of the week, remember 7 days was like a year in the book of Jubilees. So your 4th year is your 4th day in that week. Now Now we're running to see how 3 and 4 work together. But let us keep reading. So the word, so the living word came to Abram in a dream, saying, "Fear not, Abram. I am your defender, and your reward will be very great." So as we see, Yahusha HaMashiach was speaking to Abram, our forefather. He said, I'm sorry, and Abram said, "Lord, Lord, Adonai, what will you give me, seeing I go from here childless? And the son of Masik, yes, Masik, the son of my handmaid, Eleazar of Damascus, he would be my heir. And to me you have given no offspring." He said to him, "This man will not be your heir, but one that will come out of your own bowels. He will be your heir." Now, ain't it amazing how they use bowels? If you do your precepts, it would tie with spirit. It's something about the spirit and the seed that's in the loins of our brethren. Okay, this is why he said unto you, Israelite men, the seed that you carry in your loins is holy, holy. Therefore, you should not be planting your seed in the other nations. But let us keep going. Also, Father, want me to remind you, read the prophet Isaiah, because there are seeds that was cast or sown by our brethren into the other lands. And according to prophecy, he want them back too. So we have those who are cast out of Israel, such as the children in the days of Nehemiah and Ezra, when those sons of Levi had to cast away those children because they had married Gentile wives. But when you read the prophet Isaiah writings, you will see that the Father want them back too. He want those ones that have been cast out of Israel. Because again, my brother, your seed is holy unto him. And you have to understand why. Gonna walk in that whole volume of the book. All right, let us keep going. Verse 3, he said to him, "This man will not be your heir, but one that would come out of your own bowels, he would be your heir." And he brought him out abroad and said to him, "Look towards heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them." He looked toward heaven and beheld the stars, and he said to him, "So shall your offspring be." That is so true. Why you think they're often trying to, what's that word? They call it family planning, because we've been taught by the heathens that it's a burden to have children, but that is a lie. Because the living word teaches us that children are a gift. And what was the first commandment he gave to our father Adam? Be fruitful and multiply. What was the commandment he gave unto Noah? Be fruitful and multiply. And now see what the commandment he's going to give unto Abraham. All right, let's keep going, y'all. Verse 6, and he believed in Yahuwah, and it was counted to him as righteousness. And Yahuwah said to him, "I am the Lord that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give you the land of the Canaanites, to possess it forever. And I will be your God to you, and to your offspring after you." Woo, that verse is heavy there, y'all, but let us keep going. He said, "Lord, Lord, how shall I know that I shall inherit it?" Yahuwah said to him, take me a heifer of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a penguin. And he took all these in the middle of the month. Oh, shucks, we getting a date, y'all. He took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mary, which is near Hebron. Okay, you want to highlight that verse. So on the third month, the 15th day, he's going to offer these sacrifices that the Father required of him. Okay, and it's also telling us where he dwelt. He dwelt at the oak of Mary, which is near Hebron. Woo, y'all, this is getting good. All right, let's go to the next page. He built an altar there and sacrificed all these. He poured their blood on the altar and divided them in half and laid them over against each other. But the birds he did not divide. Birds came down on the pieces, and Abram drove them away and did not permit the birds to touch them. It happened when the sun had set, so at the going down of the sun, y'all, that an eclasty fell on Abram. Now, this is Genesis 15, y'all. And such a horror of great darkness fell on him. And it was said to Abram, know of surety that your offspring shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. Ooh, this is in the book of Acts too, y'all. And they shall be brought into bondage and afflicted for 400 years. Do y'all see the word 400? The tall, the X, right? The 8 jubilees. Okay. 400 years, 8 jubilees, because again, 8 was going to know the end is coming, and the and the new beginning is to follow with judgment. All right, verse 14. The nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge. Oh, he gonna judge these nations that had us in bondage. Okay. And after that, they shall come out from that place with many possessions. You will go to your fathers in peace and be buried in a good old age. Because Abraham was a righteous man unto the Father. But in the fourth generation, there we go. We see number 4 again, y'all. Just like the 10 Commandments. Unto what? The third and the fourth generation. Okay. Do y'all see the connection with 3 and 4? But let us keep going. But in the fourth generation, they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet filled. And y'all got to learn about these Amorites. Because when you learn about the Jerusalem of the Amorites today, you're going to learn that you had dwelt right there in that same place with them. hmm And for those who have Bible dictionary, I know mine's, I'm trying to remember the author, but let me get straight to the point. In the Jerusalem of the Amorites today, which is modern Jerusalem, you have the 3 major religions there: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And that dictionary revealed to me that the Amorites served the god known as Shalum, Shalem. Now, for the Israelite, it was different. Our city was known what as Salem, Salem, which means city of peace. But for them, they had Shalem, Shalem, which means they worship the God of prosperity. And with that God of prosperity, this is where you have your troops, your army come in. Because again, just like with Antiochus the Seventh, Cites, the greater your army, the greater your power, because you can go in there what? Conquer and take people's wealth. Okay, and then you become rich. Do you see how all this connect together? But anyway, underline that because that's telling you something that relates to the day or what the you had mingled themselves with. hmm hmm So the Amorites are the children of Ham, the children of Ham. So definitely underline that verse. But he said, but in the fourth generation shall, but in the fourth generation they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amalekites is not yet full. So remember, 400, the letter tall, the fourth generation, how all this connecting together. Let us keep going though. And he awoke from his sleep, and he arose, and the sun had set. So the sun has went down, y'all. And there was a flame, and a furnace was smoking, and a flame of fire passed between the pieces. Okay. On that day, what was that day, y'all? The third month and the 15th day. Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring would I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, and the Kenzites, and the Kadmonites, the Perizzites, and the Raphaim, the Pharaonites, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So y'all need to highlight that. That was the covenant. It's dealing with what? The land that he gave unto us. Because when you understand the history of the land of Canaan, that was the land that was supposed to give to the children of Shem, but Canaan was disobedient. So we need to write that down. So that was the covenant he made with Abram, that his seed will inherit that land. So let us go back to our notes. We're in this column. So it is the 3rd month, 15th day, covenant made, seed inherit the land. Okay, and that comes from Jubilees. 7. Okay, we're in 14:17. So we need to put that before the 20. Okay, these are the verses we need to focus on here. Okay, so 3rd month, 15th day. I'll come back, put my finishing touches on this, but we're going to add this to this column. It's very important. Okay, let us continue. Oh, it's verse 18. Forgive me, y'all. Eyes be jumping sometimes. All right, verse 19. The day passed, and Abram offered the pieces and the birds and their fruit offerings and their drink offerings, and the fire devoured them. Okay. On that day, we made covenant with Abram in the same way we had covenant with Noah in this month. Okay. So the same month they share in common is what? The 3rd month. And Abram renewed the festival and laws for himself forever. So this is another verse you want to highlight. So now we're seeing where Abram started picking it up. Okay. So in Abraham's day, it fell unto him on the 15th day. In Noah's day, the covenant that was made with him, which is the rainbow covenant, which is the eternal covenant, which deal with the feast of weeks, unto his day, it fell on the 3rd month and the 1st day. Okay. But let us keep going, because you got to see the Most High mind. So you got to ask, why he's making a change here. All right, let's keep going. Abram rejoiced and made all these things known to Sarai, his wife. He believed that he would have offspring, but she did not bear. Sarai advised her husband Abram and said to him, go into Hagar, my Egyptian maid. It may be that I shall build up offspring to you by her. Don't this sound familiar? Was it not done by Rachel and Leah? Especially when you read a book of Ruth, you get the insight on that. They were building up a nation, right? Okay. Now we can see where the first example came from our mother Sarah, right? Okay. Verse 23. Abram listened to the voice of Sarah, his wife, and said to her, do so. And Sarah took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. Okay? And Father is bringing this to my mindset. At this time, Sarah thought she had to do something. She didn't really understand the message. Because if you know the history of Abram and Sarah, Sarah was in old age. So she was thinking she would act upon what? Faith with works. She was thinking that this was the way that the Father was saying. But let's see what Father does, okay? Verse 24. He went into her, and she conceived and gave birth to a son, and he called his name Ishmael in the 5th year of this week. And this was the 86th year in the life of Abram. Okay, now we're going to chapter 15. We just finished chapter 14. So we got that most important thing in the note now. Okay, so we went from the first day of the 3rd month. Now we're going to the 15th day. All right, chapter 15. In the 5th year of the 4th week of this Jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abram celebrated the feast of the first fruits of the grain harvest. Y'all want to underline that because now we got a date of him celebrating the feast of the first fruit of the grain harvest. And you're going to learn these was 2 separate components. And I'm going to explain myself. You have to go back to Jubilees chapter 6 because you have the Feast of Weeks for the eternal covenant, and then you have the Feast of Fruits of the grain harvest. Okay? But notice in chapter 14, it dealt with what? A seed, an offspring. That's what we learned. Because the covenant was made with Abraham that his seed, his offspring, would inherit that land. Okay? Very important. So in this sentence, the date here, we are in the 3rd month and the 15th day of that month. All right? And that's when Abram starts celebrating the feast of the first fruits of the grain harvest. Verse 2. And he made new offerings on the altar, the first fruits of the produce to Yahuwah, a heifer and a goat and a sheep on the altar as a burnt sacrifice to Yahuwah. Their fruit offerings and their drink offerings he offered on the altar with frankincense. Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. Examine yourself and demonstrate yourself before me and be perfect. Now, in your King James Bible, we have a definition of what perfect is. Okay? So we're going to go back to the note sheet right here. 3. Perfect. Because remember, I told you 7 represent to perfect. And that would be in the book of Genesis, chapter 12. We're going to pull it up now. We got to take a brief pause because y'all, I got to give y'all mystery upon mystery as we go through this. Because you're going to understand what perfect is. What does it mean to be perfect in the sight of our Father's eyes? Let us go there. We're going to go to the 1611 version. I believe it was in Genesis chapter 12. If it wasn't in that, y'all, give me a second. I got to check my notes. Okay, I find it. It's in chapter 17. So let me go back to notes, because I do need to add this to the notes so you can line it up with the scriptures. So we'll be looking at Jubilees chapter 14. We was in Genesis chapter 15. Okay. And the word perfect, the definition that can be found in Genesis chapter 17. Okay. Well, we're going to put the verse actually. Genesis chapter 17. Trying to get my eyes right. Where did I see it? Oh, yeah, there it go. It's going to be in verse 1. Verse 1. Okay. All right. Genesis chapter 17. And we're going to look at verse 1. Verse 1 say, and when Abram was 90 years old and 9, so he was 99 years old, Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty, walk before me and be thou perfect. Now, when you click on that little number, I don't know if you can see this over here in the original text of the King James 6:11, you will learn that the word perfect means to be upright or sincere. So when you click on this inscript here, right here, it means to be upright or sincere. So we are going to add this reference in our notes. Okay? In our notes. I'll put it right here. And we're going to put KJVA 1611. Okay, so you know just to click on that and you'll have it right there at your fingertips. Okay, so I'm going to make this text smaller. All right, there it goes. It's in our notes now, so we can click on it. Now, the reason why we want to pay attention to this word, remember throughout the book we see palm trees or their leaves like holding palms in the hand, like the saints holding the palms in their hand. And it represents, because I learned this from Sister Hooter, that the reason why the palm tree or their palms are being used, it represents to be upright, to be in the righteousness of Yah. Okay, this is why it's so important to get our Father definition of what perfect is. And when we're in the righteousness of Yah and what we learn from our studying the numbers and what the numbers represent, it shows that you are doing the will of Yah. So you're not sinning or transgressing against him, or you're not going against his agenda or what he made you to be. Okay? So now that we got that established, let us keep reading. Okay? So you probably want to underline that word, that he was perfect before our Father. He showed that in what? In his works. And with works going hand with faith. So because of that, this is what our Father said unto him in chapter 15. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you greatly. So as you see in the beginning with our forefather Adam, the same thing that he established, because there was a covenant. People don't understand what the covenant is. The covenant is the spirit that binds us to the Father. Okay? So just as with Adam, he said to them what? Be fruitful and multiply. Just unto Noah, he told unto them to be fruitful and multiply. So the same is with our forefather Abraham. He would be what? Fruitful and multiply. Okay? Very important. So I'm going to put verse 4 as a verse to focus on. Okay? Now, do y'all see the connection? A lot of things are we seeing being repeated, right? Okay. Now we're in verse 5. Abram fell on his face, and Yahuwah talked with him and said, my law is with you, and you will be the father of many nations. Do y'all hear that? His law is with him. Again, it's more than just words on the paper, y'all. He's talking about the spiritual thing here. Walking with him. That is a lamp before his feet. That is the light of his body. Giving him the instructions and the commandments of Yah. All right, let's keep going. Verse 6. Not shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name from now on, even forever, shall be Abraham. So we're getting the history, of what our father's name is and why it was changed. Because in Hebrew, a name means something, y'all. And what Hebrew would teach you, word means something. In this fourth beast kingdom, which is the Roman Empire, under our brother Esau rule, who had went in covenant with Satan, that's why the beast is red in Revelation 12. They have taught us to be nonchalant about words, but you need to pay attention. So his name was changed to Abram because he would be a father of many nations. Okay? Again, it's physical things here speaking, but also spiritual things. For I have made you the father of many nations. I will make you very great, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come forth from you. That's why Sarah's name was changed from Sarai to Sarah. Verse 9, I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations, for an eternal covenant, so that I may be a God to you and to your offspring. Father is telling me to mention this to you. Notice that when he ever speaks to them, it always usually takes place on the new moon day or the 15th day. Something about the new moon day and the 15th day, y'all. Okay? Let us keep reading. You may possess the land where you have been a sojourner, the land of Canaan, and you will possess it forever, and I will be their God. Now, in this, you definitely want to read Hebrews 11. Father's telling me to tell you to read Hebrews 11 because he did this in the act of faith. Abraham did. But notice that the land, as far as the possession of land, didn't take place until later on with his children. And I'm talking about the children of Israel. So this is what I'm talking about. Even though you might not be able to physically witness with your own eyes, Abraham had enough faith to believe. He didn't have to see it, y'all. He believed in it, despite what was around him at that time. So Father's telling me to tell you to read Hebrews 11. So I'm going to put this in here as a reference. Y'all need to read Hebrews 11. Okay? Yahuwah said to Abram, keep my covenant, you and your offspring after you, and circumcise every male among you, and circumcise your foreskins, and it shall be a token of an eternal covenant between me and you. So the circumcision is a sign of the eternal covenant between our Father in heaven and between Abraham, which is going to pass on to his offspring. We need to write that down in our notes. So here, we look at circumcision. Is the sign of the eternal made between Yahuwah, I misspelled that, and Abraham. Very important to know. And we need to make sure we list that verse. Verse 11. Okay. So we got verse 4 and 11. I am going to put this in parentheses here. But no, that'll be just too much typing. Okay. So we're going to focus with a focus on verse 1, verse 3, verse 4, and verse 11. Okay. So the circumcision of their foreskin is the sign of the internal covenant made between our Father in heaven and Abraham. Verse 12. And the 8th day, here we go with number 8, y'all. And the 8th day you shall circumcise the child, every male throughout your generation, him that is born in the house, or whom you have bought with money from any stranger, whom you have acquired, who is not of your offspring. See again, what goes for Abraham goes from whomever who dwell in his home, or who sojourned with him, okay, or who live with him. Verse 13, he that is born in your house shall surely be circumcised, and those whom you, and those whom you have bought with money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. Y'all see that? His covenant shall be in their flesh for an eternal ordinance. So covenant in the flesh. That's very important to add. So we got covenant in the flesh. All right. Which is an internal or an internal ordinance. An ordinance deal with law. Root word of ordinance is order. Order. Make sure I spell that right, y'all. It's ordinance. Okay. Very important. It's a lot of key things. Verse 15. And Yahuwah say to Abraham, as for Sarai your wife, her name shall no more be called Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. So let me go ahead and list verse 14 from 11 to 14, because that's going to pertain to the circumcision. So we see that our mother Sarah's name is changed to Sarah, for she shall be the mother of them. Okay. Remember I tell you about that image, father and mother? Where you think it comes from? It comes from heaven. Verse 16. I will bless her and give you a son by her. I will bless him and he shall become a nation. Do y'all hear that, Israelites and Gentiles? Stop associating yourself with a crayon color. Start beginning to seek out Yahuwah for who is your tribe, who is your nation. Because the Bible, that's what the Bible deals with. Especially when you read 3rd Enoch, you'll see it. First thing they ask you, who is your tribe? Who is your nation? Okay? Don't be deceived by the way the heathens, how they have you to recognize yourself as a crayon color. Okay. And he shall become a nation, and kings of nations shall proceed from him. And we're gonna see that as we read further down. Abraham fell on his face and rejoiced, and said in his heart, shall a son be born to him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bring forth? Abraham said to Yahuwah, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Do you see how Abraham has such a loving heart? He even thought about his first son, right? Okay, let us keep reading. Yahuwah said, yea, yes, and Sarah also shall bear you a son, and you will call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant, and for his offspring after him. So as you see, this covenant that the Father is establishing can only go to a certain seed. Okay? Then you understand, I believe it's in Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5. Again, Isaac is of the holy seed. And you're going to see why. So we're going to put verse 19 as a focus. You want to focus on 19 too? Okay, let's keep going. Verse 20, and as for Ishmael, also have I heard you. So because Abraham interceded for Ishmael, the father's going to bless him, right? Okay, let's see what's going to take place. And behold, I will bless him and make him great and multiply him greatly. And he shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you this time next year. So when you understand the mystery why it has to be established with Isaac, the mystery is revealed in the New Testament. But we'll get there later on, y'all. Okay? So notice here, he said, but my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you this time next year. So next year, she's going to give birth to a son. So this was given, like I said, we started from the 3rd month and the 15th day. Okay, so let's put verse 21 in here as a focus. Okay, I'm going to put it in parentheses next year. So that will give you a hint what that's about. All right, let us keep going. Yahuwah ceased speaking with him, and Yahuwah went up from Abraham. Abraham did according as Yahuwah had said to him, and he took Ishmael his son, and all that was born in his house, and whom he had bought with his money, every male in his house, and circumcised the flesh of the foreskin. On that same day was Abraham circumcised, and all the men of his house, and all those whom he had bought with money from the children of the stranger were circumcised. So y'all want to take note of that, because now we're going to go to a precept in the gospel, okay, to understand again, what do the circumcision represent? We know it's the sign of the eternal covenant, right? And we know this covenant is in the flesh now. Something that's going to take place in you, in your body, in your house. Okay? So the verse you want to look at as we go to Jubilees chapter 16, we want to look at Romans chapter 4, verse 11. I list some other scriptures here, okay? But let us go to Romans chapter 4, verse 11. Okay, I'm in Romans chapter 4. We're going to verse 11. And it says here, and he received the sign of circumcision, a seal of the righteousness of the faith. You want to highlight that. Which he had yet being uncircumcised, that he might be the father of all them that believe, though they be not circumcised, that righteousness might be imputed in them. Now here's a great mystery here. What is the righteousness that this verse is talking about? Because Abraham understood this. And when you read the sacred books, you're going to learn that even Adam and all our ancient forefathers have knowledge of this righteousness that I'm about to reveal unto you. It is revealed in the book of Romans chapter 10, and you can go there in your spare time. But to save time in this video, I just want you to listen. That righteousness that this verse is talking about is dealing with the righteousness of Yah. And when you read the book of Job, it reveals what is the righteousness of Yah. Because remember, he needed Job to graduate, to come up higher with him, for he is the most high, right? Okay. It is also revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 98. And that righteousness is that same righteousness that was placed in our father Adam. Because remember the three things that made up Adam: the earth, the breath which made him a living soul, and the spirit. But many don't understand what was the spirit that Yah placed in Adam, because we know that spirit came from Yah, but many are not understanding what is that spirit. And that spirit is also revealed in Genesis chapter 1 and in the book of the Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra chapter 16. It is that same Holy One who is a lamp unto your feet, who is the light of your body, and who is the eye of your body. He is the left, and he is the iron. So when you have him in you, as revealed in Romans chapter 8, the Father don't see you as in this flesh with your imperfection, but he see the Holy One who dwell in you crying, Abba. Do y'all see? Do you see it? This is why you are received unto him. Because when you receive his son, how do you receive it? Why? You must have what? Faith. You must believe that he is the Son of Yah. You must believe that he came and he died for your sin. And when you believe and confess these things, that's written in Romans chapter 10, you become the Son of God. So also read Romans chapter 8 as well. This is what this verse is revealing. And we will make sure you have that in your notes. Okay? Gonna put that in the notes too. So you're gonna see why I put Romans chapter 8 in here. You gotta connect these things. And also above here, I'm gonna have you to read Galatians 5, because we talked about the difference between Ishmael and Isaac. Okay? Ishmael and Isaac. It's very important. So we also learn from Romans chapter 4, verse 11, okay, that this circumcision is, and make sure I quote it word for word, is the seal of the righteousness of faith. Can we go here? Okay, I can just put right this like this way. I'm just gonna try to type short. Is the sealed, that's what he said, it's the covenant in the flesh of the righteousness of the faith. So in other words, to short or paraphrase, well, everything I just said, that you believe in the Son of Yah. And because you believe in him, you have received him, which is what? You have received the salvation of Yah. And because he dwells in you now, you are following his commands and his instructions. You are keeping the commandments. You are living your life as a son of God, as a child of the light. That's what that means. Okay? Like I said, this y'all getting deep. And this took place on what day, y'all? On the 3rd month and the 15th day. So now we see why we got this date. Now we can see why the Essenes were keeping this. And I hope you did your homework on the Essenes, because Josephus revealed why they have this date. You have to read between the lines. The Essenes, if you have read the Dead Sea Scrolls, do you understand what I'm talking about? They had access to these ancient writings. Okay? So this is why you see them keeping Shavuot on the 15th day. Because at that time, according to their understanding of things, that's why they kept it. Okay? Let's keep going. So I want to check something out, just to make sure before we leave from that page. That was chapter 15. Yep. So again, you have your date. It was the 3rd month and the 15th day. And we now seeing the relationship is dealing with what? The seed, the offspring. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the next chapter. I'm going to have to make this small for a second, y'all, so I can see where I'm at. So we still got a couple more verses to read in 15. Okay. Before we go to 16. All right. Verse 25. This law is for all generations forever, and there is no variance of days and no omission of one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal law, ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. And now you have this precept that goes with what was given to the prophet Ezekiel. Circumcision of the flesh will be coming back again in the earth, y'all. But right now, what take place of this, the spiritual replacement of this is only temporary, is the circumcision of our heart. That pertains to the renewed covenant or the renewed marriage that the Messiah made for us. But when the eternal kingdom of heaven come back on the earth again, y'all, we're going back to this. Okay? Verse 26. Everyone that is born, the flesh of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, does not belong to the children of the covenant which YAHUAH made with Abram, but instead they belong to the children of destruction. Nor is there any other sign on him that is YAHUAH's. Do y'all hear this? He's giving you the reason. All right, why this a sign and what it means. Okay, but he is destined to be destroyed and killed from the earth and to be rooted out of the earth, for he has broken the covenant of our YAHUAH Elohim. So we're going to also add verse 25 and 26. Okay, 25 and 26. So from them verses is letting us know those who partake in the circumcision of the flesh belongs to YAHUAH. And the sign of those who keep and the sign of those who keep his covenant. In other words, the sign that you are in covenant with him. Very important. Now you begin to understand why you're going to see this being brought back when the Messiah reigns upon the earth for the millennium reign. Again, read Ezekiel chapter 40 to 48. Verse 27. All the angels of the presence of YAHUAH and all the angels of sanctification have been created already, circumcised from the day of their creation. Ooh, do y'all see that? What's done in heaven is also done in earth. Okay. And before the angels of the presence of YAHUAH and the angels of sanctification, he has sanctified Israel that they should be with him and with his holy angels. Okay. Verse 29. For the command is ordained for a covenant that they should observe it forever among all the children of Israel. Okay. Now we get into some juicy part that y'all need to hear. So I need to change this to 28. Listen up. Now we are going to, oh, this had to be changed to 29. Sorry about that, y'all. Let's try to make sure you have everything in the notes. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers, and Esau. Yahuwah did not cause them to come to him, and he did not choose them, although they are the children of Abraham. Do y'all hear that? Now, this is telling you they are the children of Abraham, Ishmael and Esau. Okay? Although they are the children of Abraham, he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. What does it mean that he knew them? I'm going to keep reading. You're going to find out why, especially when we get to the next chapter. He sanctified them and gathered them from all the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his. Do you hear that, Gentiles? He made you, so you belong to him. And over all nations he hath placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. You got to understand the history why the Father did this. These spirits are what? These principalities. It goes back to Noah's sons. Look at what they do to understand the history of mankind and why the Father would do this. Verse 32. But over Israel he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he would preserve them and required them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of all powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, that they may be his, and he may be theirs from now on forever. I announce to you that the children of Israel would not keep true to this law, and they would not circumcise their sons according to all this law, for in the flesh of their circumcision they would omit the circumcision of their sons, and all the sons of Beliar would leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. So the fathers are telling Moses what they're going to do. And we can see evidence of that when we get to the book of Joshua. He had to circumcise them. Okay? There will be great wrath from Yahuwah against the children of Israel, because they have forsaken his covenant and turned aside from his word, and provoked Yahuwah and blaspheme, because they do not observe the ordinance of this law. For they have treated their genitalia like the Gentiles, so that they may be removed and rooted out of the land, and there would no more be pardon or forgiveness to them for all the sin of this eternal era. Okay? So just going back to the notes, I'm trying to make sure I put everything in the right place. And I did. Okay. Which is very important. I want to make sure everything. But as you see, this circumcision thing right here is very important. And it will be done in the kingdom to come. Now you get understanding why those this day still continuing. Now we're going to chapter 16. Okay. Chapter 16. On the new moon of the 4th month. Okay. So we got the 4th month here. We appeared to Abraham at the oak of Moreh, and we talked with him, and we announced to him that Sarah, his wife, would give him a son. So those would take place on the new moon. So on the 4th month, on the 1st day, they appeared to Abraham, and they announced to him that Sarah, his wife, would give him a son. And Sarah laughed, for she heard that we spoke these words to Abraham. We warned her, and she became afraid and denied that she had laughed because of the words. You know why she laughed? She said, I'm old. But that was showing a little bit lack of faith. Okay. Verse 3. We told her the name of her son, as his name is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets, and it is Isaac. So as you see, everything is recorded in the heavens, right? Again, what's done in heaven is done in earth. They have records, as we have records. All right. Verse 4. We told her that when we returned to her at a set time, she would have conceived a son. In this month, Yahuwah executed his judgments on Sodom and Gomorrah and Zeboim and all the regions of Jordan, and he burned them with fire and brimstone and destroyed them, and they are destroyed until this day because of all their works. They are wicked and vast sinners, and they defile themselves and committed fornication in their flesh and work uncleanness on the earth, as I have told you. Okay? Listen up, because this what? In this same month, what is this month? The fourth month. We see judgment taking place on Sodom, Gomorrah, and Zeboim, and all the region of Jordan. So verse 6, in like manner, Yahuwah will execute judgment on the places where they have done similar to the uncleanness of the Sodomites, and they will suffer a judgment like that of Sodom. Do y'all hear that? He said, in like manner, Yahuwah will execute judgment on places that is doing the same things as the Sodomites. He's going to burn them up. Do y'all see now? This is tapping to the second judgment. Okay? So let's go to our notes. Verse 5 and 6. Verse 5 and 6. Okay? Go add that to here. Okay? First moon day, Sarah has announced that she would give birth to a son. And in the same month, in the fourth month, the Father's going to execute judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah. And I should put ... there, because it's in other areas. Okay? Very important. So we see here in the fourth month, we have judgment. And I need to put here, judgment. Okay? This is how I know that the fourth month is associated with judgment. Okay? Verse 7. But for Lot, we made an exception for you. But for Lot, we made an exception. For Yahuwah remember Abraham. So Abraham interceded for Lot and sent him out from the place of the overthrow. And he and his daughters committed sin on the earth, such as has not been on the earth since the days of Adam until his time. For the man has sex with his daughters. It was commanded and engraved concerning all his offspring on the heavenly tablets to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment on them like the judgment of Sodom, and to leave no offspring of that man on earth on the day of condemnation. Okay? So we all know the story that with Lot and his daughters. We know that's a no-no. Okay? Again, to understand that, you can look at the covenant that he gave unto Israel on how they should marry one another, because they was married within their tribe, their nation, but there was a law set place. Okay? Verse 10. In this month, Abraham moved from Hebron. So remember, Marie was located in Hebron, and departed and lived between Kadesh and Shur in the mountains of Gerar. In the middle of the fifth month, he moved from that place and lived at the well of oak. Okay? Then this is a date you want to write down on our chart. So right here, which is the fifth month, the 15th day is Sabbath unto the Israelites. And that's when he moved from the oak of Marie in Hebron to the well of oak. You want to write that down in your notes. Okay? Well, not write it down. You know you have access to these notes. Okay? Very important. So in the fifth month. Then verse 12. In the middle of the sixth month, Yahuwah visited Sarah and did to her as he had spoken, and she conceived. So we see here a divine intervention is taking place. So it's in the middle of the sixth month. And the middle of the sixth month, y'all, is the 15th day. So it was the sixth month and the 15th day. So in the days of Abraham, it is the month known as Adar. Okay? Again, that's when the father visits Sarah and Sarah conceived. And okay, and then verse 13. And she gave birth to a son in the third month, in the middle of the month, at the time of which Yahuwah had spoken to Abraham on the festival of the feast of harvest. Isaac was born. You want to highlight this is giving us another date. So what was the day that our father spoke to Abraham on the festival of the first fruits of harvest? Do you see how this relate? You have what? Reaping of the wheat, which is the seed, 1 John chapter 9. Okay? Where the same as in the physical. Isaac was born, the holy seed, that is to bring the Holy One. Okay? So highlight that verse. So on the note sheet, we have here in the 3rd month, on the 15th day, in the day of Abraham, which is unto us Keslu, Isaac is born, and that is the same day when we had the feast of the first fruits of the harvest. Now we can see why 15 is significant. Okay. Then verse 14. Abraham circumcised his son on the 8th day. He was the first that was circumcised according to the covenant that is ordained forever. You want to highlight that. He was the first that was circumcised according to the covenant that is ordained forever. In the 6th year of the 4th week, we came to Abraham at the well of oak, and we appeared to him. So in the 6th year of the 4th week, they came to Abraham at the well of oak and appeared to him. Listen up. This can give us another date. Verse 16. We return in the 7th month. Do y'all see that? They returned in the 7th month and found Sarah with child before us, and we blessed him, and we announced to him all the things that have been decreed concerning him, so that he should not die until he should beget 6 more sons, and saw them before he died. So in the 7th month, the angels returned back unto him. Sarah had already given birth to the child, and they blessed the child. Don't it sound familiar in the gospel with the Messiah? Okay. And then they announced to Abraham all the things that would bestow upon him, and that he would have some more children, which are 6 sons. That is verse 16. So let's go back to the note sheet right here. Right here, I have it listed right here. In the 7th month, the 15th day, they return. You're going to see why as we read further. Okay. To bless the child, to give a decree unto him. All right. Before that time, in the 3rd month, on the 22nd day, Isaac was circumcised, and he was the first. Don't this sound familiar with the Messiah? To be the first of his kind, to be the first begotten, because the Messiah is the second Adam. But this Isaac was the first. Why he's the first? Because he inherited the eternal covenant. Okay, this is the key. He is the first because the eternal covenant would be passed to him. Think about your heirs. You always go to the one where we think of the heir, but remember, like Reuben and Judah, because of what Reuben did, it went to Judah. Where the father chose Isaac because Isaac was born from Sarah. That's a difference. So it's make this word bold so you can understand the relationship. He is the first because of the covenant. Okay? Because that covenant is to go to Isaac. That covenant didn't go to Ishmael. Ishmael was not born of Sarah. That was not the promise that our father made. Big difference. Okay? Ishmael's inheritance is different from Isaac. Let us keep reading. Okay? But in Isaac should his name and offspring be called. You got to be ordained and appointed by y'all, right? And that all the offspring of his sons should be Gentiles and be counted with Gentiles. But from the sons of Isaac, one should become a holy offspring and should not be counted among the Gentiles. So as you see, all the sons of Abraham are still Gentiles. Now, when Isaac have his children, one of his sons will not be counted among the Gentiles. And that holy offspring that is to come is Jacob. So I need to put this in here. Verse 17, because we're in this chapter. Let's see here. So I need to put a focus of, let's see what we got here. Jubilees chapter 16. I do need to put 17 in here. So we see here holy offspring of Isaac, not among Gentiles is Jacob. Let's talk about it. You got to see why. It goes with the promise that he made to Abraham. We're going to talk about that seed that is to come from that righteous lineage. Okay, so that is your proof who is an Israelite and who's a Gentile. Okay, for he shall become the portion, dowry of the Most High, and all his offspring shall have fallen into possession of Yah. Remember, Yah is our inheritance. He is the one that's over us, not the other principalities. Okay, that they should be to Yahuwah a people for his possession above all nations, and that they should become a kingdom and priests and a holy nation. Okay, again, you have to understand the mindset of our Father, why he does this. Once you understand the history of Noah's sons, do you understand why he did this? We went our way, and we announced to Sarah all that we had told him, and they both rejoiced with very great joy. Okay, so this was in the 7th month, y'all. So in this 7th month, he built there an altar to Yahuwah, who had delivered him, and he was causing him to rejoice in the land of his sojourning. And he celebrate a festival of joy. Okay, this festival now, we got a festival coming up. He celebrate a festival of joy in this month for 7 days near the altar which he had built at the well of oak. Now we're going to find out what this festival of joy is. So I need to put this in the chart. Okay. Okay. A festival of joy. Why? Because it deal with what pertain to Isaac. Isaac will too bring forth a holy offspring that is not counted among the Gentiles with Jacob. And if you understand the mystery on that, then you understand this. Jacob too will bring the holy offspring that is to come, the holy seed. This is why this is a festival of joy. Okay? Verse 21. He built tents, there go your word, underline tents, for himself and for his servants on this festival. And he was the first to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles on the earth. Do y'all see how this relates to Shavuot? Because of the holy offspring that is to come, and because Isaac was born on the 3rd month and the 15th day, that shall lead or bring forth the holy seed that was promised unto Abraham, the holy one that redeemed us back to the Father, the holy one that returned us to the status of Adam. This is why this is the festival of joy, and this is why he started and he kept the feast of tabernacle on the earth, and this is why he's the first one. During these 7 days, he brought a burnt offering to Yahuwah each day to the altar, consisting of 2 oxen, 2 rams, 7 sheep, 1 male goat, for a sin offering, that he might atone thereby for himself and for his offspring. Do you see that? So the sin offering was given to atone himself and his offspring from their sins and their transgressions. Verse 23. And as an offering of thanks, he brought 7 rams. Oh, offering of thanks. What's that, y'all? Peace offering. Hallelujah. Y'all, I got to put that in here. Okay. We got atone taking place. We have peace offerings, offering of thanks. Do you see how everything relates, y'all? Y'all, this getting good. So I need to make sure I put verse 22 and verse 23 in our notes. Okay. Y'all, this getting good. I need to put right here. Okay. So as an offering of thanks, he brought 7 rams. There's that number again, 7, right? 7 kids, 7 sheep, and 7 male goats, and their fruit offerings and their drink offerings. And he burned all the fat of it on the altar, a chosen offering to Yahuwah for a sweet smelling odor. Why is sweet? Because it's done in righteousness. He had a willing heart, a righteous heart, a heart that's not made of stone. Okay. Morning and evening. Listen up, y'all. Morning and evening, he burnt fragrant substances, fragrances and incense, and sweet spice, and nard, and myrrh, and spice, and aromatic plants. All these seven, here we go again, seven, he offered, crushed, mixed together in equal parts and pure. And he celebrated this feast during 7 days, rejoicing with all his heart and with all his soul, he and all those who were in his house. And there was no stranger with him, nor any that was uncircumcised. So when you get to this feast, it is telling you you have to be uncircumcised before you got to that feast. So let's put that in the notes. Circumcised. When did the circumcision take place? It was on the 22nd day of the third month. Right before Sukkot came in. Y'all, this is good. Okay. I'll make sure I put verse 25 in here for our reference. Did we got it here? We're going to put it right here. Okay. So notice here, they kept Sukkot for 7 days. So you probably wondered, that's a translation error? No. Because when you read Ezekiel chapter 45 to 46, you will see in the kingdom to come, we're going to keep the 7 days. Why? Because in the kingdom to come, there will be eternity. There will be no more of Yah's creation going against his will. So we will no longer have the need for the 8th day. For the 8th day represent what? Judgment, to bring a new beginning. Well, when his kingdom come, that would be the last time of the new beginning, because that new beginning would be eternal. Okay? So this is why Abraham kept it for 7 days. All right? So again, read Ezekiel chapter 45 to 46. Mystery said, I speak unto you. Verse 26, he blessed his creator who had created him in his generation. For he had created him according to his good pleasure. Yahuwah knew and perceived that from him, would arise the plant of righteousness for the eternal generations. Do y'all hear that? The plant of righteousness for the eternal generations, and from him a holy offspring, so that it should become like him who made all things. Who is this plant of righteousness for the eternal generation that will come from him who is a holy offspring that would be like him who made all things? Y'all, verses going off my head. So right here, we also want to put the book of Hebrews. I believe it was Hebrews chapter 1. And I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 2. But we're going to go to Galatians chapter 3. Galatians chapter 3. So here we have, which I'm going to highlight in purple. We're going to have the plant of righteousness of the eternal generations. That is the holy offspring. Make sure I got everything right. The plant of righteousness for the eternal generation. I'm sorry. For the eternal generation. That is the holy offspring that comes from Abraham's loins, from the loins of Abraham. That means he is a descendant of Abraham. A descendant of Abraham. We're just gonna spell it out so there'll be no confusion. That would be like him who made all things. Okay. A descendant that is a holy offspring from the lords of Abraham, who will be like Abraham, and that has made all things. You're going to have to read Hebrews chapter 1. First, let us go to Galatians chapter 3 and 16. 3 and 16. I'm excited, y'all, because when you see this, you're going to see why Abraham called the Feast of Tabernacles a festival of joy, because he made the connection on who is the one to come. Okay? Where we at? Galatians 3. I'm in the 1611 version. Okay, and we're going to, I have to make sure what verse we're going to. Verse 16. This is very important. Listen up. This is a verse you want to highlight. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. Well, that's what we just got confirmed by the book of Jubilees. Only the promises went from Abraham to Isaac and to Jacob. He saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as a one. So when Abraham received this message about the seed, Abraham already knew it was not talking about those who will come after him, but it was talking about one particular seed that is to come. Okay. And that seed that is to come is Abraham's seed, which is the Messiah. Okay. So next, let us go to Hebrews 1. Hebrews 1, because that one that is to come, which is the Messiah, is the same one who made all things with the Father. Okay. Genesis chapter 1, you will see him there. It is the precept to John chapter 1. Okay. Remember, the word was with Yah. So whatever Yah instructed the word to make, he went forth and made it. And that's going to be revealed in your book of Hebrews. So let me look here. Let's see which verse it is. Okay, it's in verse 2. Having these last days spoken unto us by his Son, Yahusha HaMashiach, whom he appointed heir of all things. Is he not the King of kings and the Lord of lords to come? Okay. By whom also he made the worlds. That is the verse to highlight. So it is in Hebrews chapter 1. I'm going to see if there's any precepts to be attached to that. But this is a mystery that many have a hard time understanding. But when the Father was creating things, the living word and wisdom was there accompanying him. They was there with him. Okay. So I don't see any precept by verse 2, but I do see a couple of precept by verse 3 that you may can look at. All right. So in your spare time, check that out. So now you see that Abraham had knowledge of these sacred things already. And this is why he called the Feast of Tabernacles. Why he said is a rejoice. Because of the blessings that were bestowed upon him and his son Isaac. And how Jacob would not be among the Gentiles. He would be what? A prince among men, whose name was changed to what? Israel. Okay. So we're going to stop here today. We make sure Did I read it? Everything down? No, I didn't read everything down yet. So let me finish reading everything down. So I know we read 26. So never going to read 27. He blessed and rejoiced, and he called the name of this festival the festival of the Lord. So he called the name of this festival the festival of Yahuwah. Why? Because he's going to bring his son to redeem us. So festival of joy, festival of Yahuwah, or you say Adonai. And the reason is because he's going to bring his son. And we all know that his son was born in the 7th month. Okay? I need to put that here. 7th month is the birth month of Yahusha Mashiach. Okay? The Messiah. That's why Abraham rejoiced. Y'all see that mystery. Now, I have done historical research and got the historical facts. And he was born in the month known as the Aleph and the Tal, the beginning and the end. He was born in the fall. And that's proof of that. And the proof of the is the East Star. And the East Star is when you have Jupiter coming in line with Regulus. Regulus is the brightest star of the Leo constellation. So now we have what? Confirmation, precept upon precept upon precept. And it's revealed through this mystery of the Shavuot, which will lead into getting us understanding of the origins of the feast of Sukkot. Because in that divine month, the 7th month, that month is to announce of the coming of the son of Adam, the coming of the son of man, which is what? Which is who? Yahusha HaMashiach. Okay? All right? That's why he called it the festival of Yahuwah, or the festival of Adonai, because he's sending the King of Kings, who is the Lord of Lords. Amazing, right, y'all? Okay. Verse 28. And we bless him forever and all his offspring after him throughout all the generations of the earth, because he celebrate this festival in its season, according to the testimony of the heavenly tablets. Do y'all see that? For this reason it is ordained on the heavenly tablets concerning Israel that they shall celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days with joy in the 7th month, acceptable before Yahuwah as a statute forever throughout their generation every year. Do y'all hear that? So in the days of Abraham, they did it for 7 days. But remember, when the children of Israel went to Egypt, they forgot all these sacred things. So when he gave this back unto them, there was a change. It was 8 days. Why? Because the 8 days going to signify to us a new beginning is to come. But first, a week has to pass. But when the new beginning comes, we will no longer have the need for the 8th day, which is judgment. Okay? Verse 30. To this there is no limit of days, for it is ordained forever regarding Israel. Okay? That they should celebrate it and dwell in tents and set wreaths on their heads and take leafy boughs and willows from the brook. Abraham took branches of palms. There we go with palm trees. Palms mean what? To be upright. To be what? In the righteousness of Yah. And who's that righteousness of Yah? It is Yahushua HaMashiach who dwelt in you. And through him he shall instruct you on how to keep the commandments, instructions of Yah. And the fruit of the good and pleasing trees. So he took branches of the palm trees and the fruit of the good and pleasing trees. And every day going round the altar with the branches 7 times in a day. In the morning, he praised and gave thanks to Yahuwah for all things in joy. Again, that 7 times a day represents something. And it's also going to tie into the Messiah. And I'm going to ahead and give you that mystery. The walls of Jericho is to signify 7 days will pass. And on that seventh day, the walls of Jericho will be broken down, meaning that his son will conquer this kingdom that we are in, the fourth beast. Strongholds will be broken. And as time permit, if it's my Father will, I will get into the deeper part of that mystery, dealing with the Messiah and what is aligned to him. But for the purpose of this video, the Father wants you to understand his mystery about his judgments to come. And it is to come on the 8th day that will bring forth the new beginning. All right, this concludes this video of the mystery of the Shavuot. Okay. I list all the scriptures here that you would need. The last thing I forgot to mention that when you read Jubilees chapter 44, I was watching a brother video and somehow he got the 14th day. But through the precepts and by me studying the Father's calendar, like 1st, 2nd, 3rd Enoch, I knew the middle of the month was the 15th day. So the way to see that they probably had a translation error or, something is missing there, that when you count from the 7th day to the 16th day, you get a total of 10 days. Starting on the 7th and counting up to the 16th, you would get a total of 10 days. Okay? And you will notice that they have the Father speaking to him on the 16th day. And then the verse above that, before the Father spoke to him on the 16th day, he was keeping the feast of the first fruits. Okay? But through all the precepts, and even with the Feast of Tabernacles, because we know that was kept on the 15th day, okay, we would confirm that also that the Feast of Grains during these times of Abraham, okay, was kept on the 15th day because it aligns with the Feast of Sukkot. That is your proof right there. All right. So we automatically know that the 15th day is the Feast of First Fruits. So for him to be for Isaac to be at the well of oak for 7 days, but when you count it, you get a total of 10 days. Like I said, I believe there's some information missing. So what I got so far when I read Jubilees chapter 14, when he came there on the 7th day, when it said that he stayed 14 days, then that put him to the 14th day. Then on the next day, he kept the Feast of First Fruits, which is the day, and then on the 16th day, then the Father spoke to him. But like I said, that verse looked kind of off. I'm thinking it should be that he came on the 8th day, and then the Father spoke to him on the 15th day, because as you see, according to all the precepts, majority of the time, the Father spoke to our forefathers either on the new moon day or on the 15th day. Just something to pray and meditate and go before the Father to clarify these things. So as it stands now, I am standing by the 15th day. And we can even see it in the writings of the Essenes. Because when you read the work of Josephus, they were very studious of reading these sacred writings. Okay? So to clarify, to sum everything up, okay, about this 15th day in the 3rd month. Okay? Because now we're getting ready to go into this chart here. The 15th day of the 3rd month was pertaining to the days of Abraham. Okay. Now, when you deal with the Feast of Weeks, it was actually the 3rd month and the 1st day of Noah, because that's when the covenant was actually made, which pertained to the flood. So, do you see how things was changed as time went on? Okay. So take this time now to go back on the chapters that we so far have read in Jubilees, such as Jubilees chapter 6 and chapter 14, 15, and 16, and any other chapters that pertain to that. And just pray and meditate, and then we'll be coming back for part 7 because we got to finish up chapter 6. So we have to, we had to take that brief intercession to look at Abraham. So now we understand what Abraham kept and what was given unto him. So through that, another feast was added, which was Sukkot. So now we begin to see how things have changed and why they change. Because, whenever the day that was ordained for them to pick it back up, that was the day they continue it. So Feast of Weeks. This meditate on that is dealing with what? The counting of weeks, or the counting of the days that make the week. Remember, 7 equals 1 week, or 7 days equal 1 week, or 7,000 years equal 1 week. Why? It relates to the flood and what took place, or what Noah did after the flood. So the first contract, or the first covenant, was on the 3rd month and the 1st day, which in Adam's calendar it would be Caslu. Then we get to the days of Abraham, because he was the one who continued that covenant. Okay, he continued it. And now we can also see the mentioning of the Feast of Grains, which fell on the 3rd month and 15th day. And we see that it pertains to what? The holy offspring, the seeds that will bring forth the Holy One that is to come, which is Yahusha HaMashiach. I hope y'all enjoyed this. And just stay tuned for part 6. All right, my brothers and sisters, continue to preach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it's truly at hand. Make sure the people receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10, and baptize the people in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, for the Lamb set the example of the water baptism and the Holy Spirit baptism, and the apostles continued them both. Love you all, and shalom.